What's up, everybody? It's whack time. Today we're talking about bullshit money crap, and Matt's got a plan to fix everything. But wait, TJ's in the other corner ready to body slam his ideas. He says, fuck you, Matt, and Matt comes at him with a no, this is a good idea, bitch. And the chair comes down. Oh, sorry.
And I'm Matt.
I definitely did. And I'm Matt. I was definitely recording.
All right, we're
that.
keeping it. TJ, introduce yourself.
So I don't know where it went, but that is gonna happen.
No, that's going in. That's the start of this
God.
episode. TJ, fucking introduce yourself. We're started.
All of this is the
We're
episode.
started.
What?
Oh.
Yes.
That's TJ. We're going to talk about money today, y'all.
I wasn't recording at all.
You fucker.
That's my point.
You piece of shit.
I just started.
Okay, somebody put a break in here. We'll do like 3 seconds of silence.
Hello, and welcome to the WAQ Show. I'm your host, TJ.
But I'm Matt.
And I'm Dan, and we're all very chuckly this morning.
Yeah, just a little bit. Some fun intros. I'll still find a way to put that in. But we're talking about the economy and money, and how much Dan loves money, wants all the money in the world, and Demominism.
It's true. I'm
Yes,
so greedy.
Demominism.
So,
Should I start?
yeah, go ahead and tell us what you...
Okay, I think these guys think it was in the last episode, but I think it was actually 2 episodes ago in the credit episode. I talked about my idea for how to fucking change shit and stop billionaires from having too much money and shit like that. And Dan called it Demominism. So if you don't remember, my basic idea was we should create a cap of net worth, basically. You can have, like $1 billion in cash and personal shit that just you own and take pleasure in, but that cap does not apply to actual money in companies or in charities or in projects and shit like that, which is basically forcing all the motherfuckers that are sitting on fat stacks of cash that are worth as much as all the people in fucking, an average town. It'll force them to actually put their fucking money back into the economy, because trickle-down economics don't work. And so we need to force them, if we're going to give tax breaks to the rich, we got to force them to use that fucking money. And so it's basically the idea. What the cap would be exactly, I keep saying $1 billion. It could be, whatever. But that's the basic idea.
Which I agree with and disagree with. Because when you're making your own money, I don't think it's the right of anyone else to tell you what to do with that money.
I hardcore disagree. Because there is definitely a point that you can't do anything else with all of your money. Like, you're just an asshole that's collecting money to have the biggest number that you can. Like, I can't fathom what I would do with $1 billion.
I mean, I can, but it's using it, so...
I think
Dan, if you're...
I was letting you two have conversation.
Okay.
I feel like I usually grab the reins of this bitch pretty early on the road trip, so just letting you guys have a conversation. But I think my fundamental issue with what you're claiming, and there's going to be listeners eventually someday of this episode who are just fucking screaming at you already.
Yeah.
Because you're basically stating free market is wrong. We need to control people's finances to a certain degree. You're not saying everyone needs to have the same amount of, rice pudding every morning and blah, 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 which, that's the extreme end of the scale. This is somewhere in the middle which I think is valuable. It's something to consider. But my fundamental problem with the way you're structuring it, like, I would love to extrapolate on this idea, expand, and of course, if it were ever implemented, there'd be a million different fucking legal loopholes. And well, this isn't about legal stuff, it's about finances. Anyway, my fundamental issue is your caveat of and personal assets. Like, that's, if you have a house, then that is, if it's set to like $1 billion, depending on what house you own, that's it. You're done. Like, that's most of your fucking breathing room.
Like you said, there are a million ways that this would be like qualified. Maybe because. So the idea of this is to force people that are sitting on mountains of money to use their money for the better of all.
Right.
That's why I stipulated this would be a limit on your liquid and only personally enjoyable funds. But technically speaking, part of the spirit of this idea is to get that fucking money back into the economy and don't have it sitting somewhere. So, yeah, buying a house, buying a bunch of cars is getting that money back into the economy. So, maybe actual cash counts for a full 100% of its worth, but assets that, like house and cars and shit that only you get to enjoy count for, I don't know.
It's all theoretical.
50% of their
so yeah,
worth.
50%. I could see, yeah, like if we expand upon it and be more specific with those things, I think that would be more feasible, less aggressive toward the individuals that this would be impacting. So I think that's a good idea.
This is also definitely like, if something like this were implemented, like Dan said, it would have 1,001 caveats and loopholes and shit that would need to be considered. And, like, yes, if you're sitting there in your room, wherever, without $1 billion, screaming at me that I'm wrong, because someday you'll be part of the 1%, and you think that we shouldn't tax the rich, so that when you're the rich, you don't get taxed, you're a moron, and you're taking this way too seriously.
Well, I mean, taxing
Also,
the rich and doing what you say is different.
Yeah, but I ran into this idea recently where, like, somebody on Reddit was like, hey, people that aren't part of the 1% that think we shouldn't tax the 1%, why? And nobody gave a good answer, except for a couple of people were like, if I were that rich, I wouldn't want to be taxed. And it's like, you're never going to be that rich. But nobody sitting on Reddit is ever going to be that rich.
What about Mr. Diamond Hands himself? Come on.
I don't know who that is.
The GameStop stock guy?
Yeah.
It was a joke, but...
Okay,
I mean,
like,
here's the thing, though.
That's an outlier.
Yeah, but it's still a person. Like, to that point, someone is doing it. Why wouldn't it be one of those people? There is a potential for one of those people to do it. Just to play devil's advocate.
That's fair. I'm just saying, like, the majority of people that have that opinion, it's not going to happen to them.
Yeah, fair. Majority of people on the face of the planet, it's not going to happen to them. You're absolutely right.
It would probably happen
like,
more with your scenario, though.
The rando guy that has that opinion that is actually going to achieve that is an outlier in every way. He can be an outlier in his opinion as well. But I am of the mind that if you believe something that is objectively never going to be true, it is either a dream or a hope or whatever you want to call it, or it is just
But you don't know which one...
fallacy.
You don't know which one is the outlier. So you can't just say that objectively that specific person is never going to be it based on a Reddit comment.
The guy...
You know what I mean? Like, you can't just blanket say,
fair.
None of you should have this thought because only one of you is going to do it. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that me currently saying that it is very weird and I think wrong and dumb of people who aren't in the 1% saying the 1% shouldn't get taxed more because they want to be there someday. I think the majority of those people actually aren't going to be there someday, and they are hurting themselves with that opinion.
I can agree with that.
The people that are going to get to be there,
Yeah.
get to have the insane opinion that I don't want to tax the 1% because I'm going to be the 1% because they're going to be the 1%. So in the same way that they are an outlier in that they will get there, they can be an outlier in that opinion.
Yeah.
IMO.
I think the way you just presented it was much better than the first one, even though
I
you're presenting
have
the same
a-
info.
I have a very poor... I often have very good ideas that are poorly presented by myself.
That's what
I
we're here
think.
for. We help you. More Dan
I
than me.
also...
but-
I also disagree that this isn't free market exchange still. I think if anything, I am forcing more free market exchange. I am trying to stop the broken part of capitalism at the top where people just sit on mountains of money and not engage in the system that is the point of capitalism.
You're forcing transactions. That by definition, making someone do something implies that it is not a choice of free will.
yeah.
I mean, they still... Literally the only choice I am taking from them is the choice to sit on a mountain of money.
Yeah, which when it's phrased like that, and from a practical individual who admittedly does not ever expect, hopes sure, but does not ever expect to be part of the 1%. Yes, I agree with that concept. I think this would be helpful for the economy. I also think it is fundamentally in opposition to the general capitalistic approach, things like that. I also think that people need to stop thinking in terms of capitalism versus communism and
Yes.
recognize that there are other options out there. Much like the two-party system in America, we need to stop looking at it as Republican and Democrat, and we need to look at other options because it continuously only keeps getting worse. It doesn't matter which one is elected. It doesn't matter which capitalism or communism you pick. It's only going to keep getting worse because the longer something is utilized, and this, I am going to blow people's minds and connect and compare examples of economics to video games to a bunch of other stuff here. The longer literally anything is in use, there are two things that will always remain true. Over the cycle of its lifetime of use, it breaks down. And over the cycle of its lifetime of being used, people find ways to abuse it. Think of a video game. The longer you play your same video game, the more likely you are to run into opportunistic bugs, to try and exploit the game, to manipulate the way stats work in your favor, because you're trying to be more creative, come up with a new strategy, however you want to fucking phrase it. The longer you're in that mindset, in that space, the more exploits essentially are uncovered and utilized and manipulated. And then we'll compare it to an automobile. The longer you drive your car, the more it starts to break down. My question is, how do you perform maintenance like you do on a car to fucking capitalism or communism? You can't. It is an idea. It is an ambiguous form that people choose to take part in, that governments and countries choose to identify themselves with. You can't perform maintenance on it, but it is going to continuously break down as it becomes larger and larger, because it wasn't designed for that size. Your vehicle wasn't designed to go 20 trillion miles. Communism and capitalism weren't designed to run for countries the size of half the world, whole continents wide, for trillions of people. Like, it needs to be rethought. Sorry for the long explanation,
worries.
but there you go.
Yeah.
I would argue, using your same metaphor, that when you make a car, that is the car. That is the car as it will be known. And if you would like, you can start changing parts and fixing problems as it gets older. And most people would still say that that's the car. I believe it's the Theseus ship paradox. Like, if you keep exchanging pieces of a thing, at what point is it not the thing anymore? Most people are willing to say, if I have a car and I change the carburetor and a couple tires and the windshield and the left passenger mirror, not left passenger, the driver's side rearview mirror, that's still the same car. Most people aren't going to be like, nope, it's car point .0, car point .3, car point .7. Most people aren't making that semantic argument. They're like, that's the same car. I don't understand why we can't do that with capitalism and still have it be mostly capitalism. At the scale that I understand, like, it's mostly because words have definitions and shit. But at the scale we're at, I think the best way to, air quotes, save capitalism, keep the free market open, is to start replacing, like, 50, 100 years ago, you could become a big fucking rich guy making a really good chair. Like, if you had companies that specialized in making chairs, that was completely viable to build your empire on. Making chairs, and you could branch out to making tables and whatnot. You're not doing that anymore. The market has changed. People that want chairs and tables and whatnot, they're established companies that do it better than anybody else. You sitting in your basement right now are not going to start making chairs in a new fucking way that nobody's ever thought about and make a better chair than anybody's ever seen. That's not going to happen. Maybe you have an idea, you get that shit out on the market, you patent it. You don't have the legal team to keep that patent going. Somebody else is gonna, like, a big company is gonna be like, all right, we're sitting on this guy until his patent breaks, and we're gonna start making his chair for cheaper than he can ever make it, and we're gonna dominate. The chair market's gone. The car market, we're kind of switching over to electric, so there is some wiggle room there, but it's mostly gone. But there are things that are still part of the free market. There are things that are still part of... They just posted a weird chair picture. There are things that are still part of the free market that we can change. Medicine should not be part of the free market. We can turn medicine socialist. Put it in the tax system. Like, half if not more of the other fucking first world countries already do this, and their economies haven't fallen apart. Their citizens aren't paying an arm and a leg to live there. Like, all this shit that the Republicans say is not true.
Well, here's the problem, though. They're also not as profitable as the United States.
Yeah, there's other issues.
They're also not as big as the United States.
Also, their healthcare is worse
because
it's globalized.
Their healthcare might be worse, but more people are getting it.
I think before we get into that, that's like a whole
this is derailing a bit.
That's a big off.
Okay, I will dial it back here. My only point is there are parts of capitalism we could change into something else. We could change into socialism or whatever, a pseudo-capitalistic side venture.
Right, but at that point it needs to stop being called capitalism. And it needs to be called, it doesn't need to be called communism. I'm going back to the point of, we need to be open to the idea that it's not on a spectrum of capitalism to communism.
Yes.
It needs to be, a field to play on.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm making.
Okay, that's fair.
Because the reason that it's not happening, the reason that it's being refused to be looked at is because people are thinking it's either red or it's blue. And no, it's not, guys. But yeah, so just to support your point while bringing up the fundamental issue of why it's not happening.
And I think I got away from myself a little bit. My point with the whole car thing was like, people don't think it's bad when if your carburetor's broken, you get the new one that doesn't have the same defect. Nobody thinks that's bad. But if you make the medical industry socialist, then people are like, automatically bad. Can't have it.
Yeah, but we're going to move away from that concept because that is definitely going to pull us far away from your Demominism idea.
Which, one thing I wanted to say about the Demominism, I've been pretty quiet this episode. Mostly I agree with a lot of what Dan's saying. And I agree in a way with what you're trying to get to, Matt. But for me, it doesn't matter how much money you make. Saying you have to spend X amount of money is wrong unless everyone has to spend X amount of money. So for me, it's not a cap, it's a percentage of how much you make.
That
It's not
doesn't correlate.
It's not fair to like say
That doesn't correlate because people don't have to pay a percentage of what they make to live.
Well, okay, because
People have to pay a flat number to live.
here's the fundamental difference between you two, which is why this makes sense. TJ says it doesn't matter who you are, how much you make, everyone should be treated the same. Whereas Matt, you fundamentally believe the people who make more than everybody else should be treated differently.
It's basically I believe this is the difference between, what is it, equity and equality?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I find myself hard pressed to pick which side of the fence for this particular point here, because while I agree with Matt that people who are pulling in more money for like more of the world's currency do have a fundamental and moral responsibility to not just the people around them, but literally the fucking planet at this point, because it is a global economy. They have a fundamental responsibility morally to use that money to improve something, whether that's the flow of the economy by hiring more people, by doing more initiatives, by even if it's by buying themselves more shit, because that's giving money to a business that can then use it to reinvest in its employees, so on and so forth. I do believe they have an obligation, but that obligation also to a degree extends to everybody involved. Scaled based on how much income they're making, of course. Right. I can only make so much of an impact. But I also agree with TJ in that I don't give a shit who you are, especially when it comes to a legal requirement, because this would have to be enforced governmentally if it were a thing. You can't have the government treating people differently, even though they already do. Believe me, I know this is a bigger problem.
Do.
I know this is a fucking bigger problem, but I'm trying to do it from the pinpoint perspective in an ideal situation, which is the idea that created Demominism. The government would not look at people as individuals and would not look at people as brackets. Everyone is the same. And everyone should be treated the same. That being said, the way everyone is treated should be enough to support or properly, enable the poorest homeless person to the richest fat man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is
but they should,
I agree with that.
But they should all be the same because we are all the same exact human. We are all just a human. Our personal circumstances are a creation of our own design to a majority degree. So I understand why the government should approach it that way and everyone should be treated equal, but I do understand, and like I said before I started that second point, where Matt's coming from and the value of that as well. There's a very fine line somewhere in the middle where both sides of that are represented accurately, but it's very hard to find.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you have such a vehement problem with people being treated differently. People are different. They're always going to be different. I think many of the issues come when we try and make one solution for everybody when everybody has a million different situations and one solution isn't going to work for all of them.
Instead of trying to make one solution for everybody, my argument is don't try to make any specific solution for anybody. Make a solution that solves the problem. Don't
that's
tailor
what
it around
think
people.
I have proposed. There's no problem with whatever the cap we decide on is. That would be us saying there is no problem with that guy sitting on that amount of money. Who cares?
I don't think there's a problem with that.
Well, there is a fundamental economic problem with that.
I get it in that way, but I mean as as a person and making your own choices, I don't have a problem with someone sitting on their money.
Okay, here, let me put it this way. This might sound like an attack, it is not. I just want to get this point across as clearly as possible. Do you care that the human race is advancing, TJ?
Yeah, but I don't think it has anything to do with that.
Why? I think at the point we are currently, there is no way that the human race can go forward without money. And so I think that these people that have accumulated lots of money and aren't using it for anything are what's the word? They're slowing down the advancement of the human race by not funding things that could push it forward.
Idealistically, I wish money didn't exist anymore.
All right,
Is
well,
my
I
thought.
think we have all reached as far as we're going to go on this topic.
Well, no, because I barely said much.
I was just going to segue into the money shouldn't exist
Well,
thing,
yeah,
because we
yeah.
did
Yeah,
want to
no,
get to
we-
that at
we've-
some point.
We've got a couple minutes before we hit the halfway mark. I figured then I would transition over to
Okay.
the second point for today.
So my point was simply like, I don't understand if you want the human race to keep going forward. Help me understand why you think money isn't necessary for that. Because we need to go to other planets that cost money. We need cars to not run on gas that costs money. Blah 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 blah.
in the current situation, yeah, we need the money for it. But I also don't see the lack of money within those industries at all. Like, those things
You
are
don't
all
think if there
moving
was more
forward.
money going towards electric cars, we wouldn't have electric cars by now? You don't think if fucking the Koch brothers and massive machine manufacturers were putting money into space shit, we wouldn't have 4 different companies trying to get to Mars and actually making a bunch of different ideas and competing and whatnot?
Yes and no, because I believe that they're actually farther ahead than what we think they are. But I also believe that society can't handle certain technical advances as quickly, and they get shut down by society. So I don't think it's all. I mean, I
That
think
sounds
money's
like
a portion. I think money is part of it, but not everything. Also, my point is more like being a business owner. It is no right to anyone to tell me what to do with my money as I'm gaining it. No matter what stage at point of my business, because I'm obviously a very small business and make barely anything. But if I was making millions, then my thoughts don't change on that spectrum. Now, I agree that morally, yes, I would want to be putting my money into things. And I do believe that most of those billionaires are putting their money into things. They're still sitting on a lot because their money is making money so they can put money into things. So I don't think it's happening that much people just sitting on money. I think there's a small percentage within that 1%.
Cool, those are the only people I'm affecting. I also don't understand why you
Well-
don't think you'd be sitting on a mountain of money, but you have a problem with me telling people sitting on a mountain of money to use their money. You agree that if you had that much money, you would be doing what I want you to do with it, but it's bad that I am telling you to do what I want you
You're
to do.
forcing it upon. You're taking away the freedom to choose.
It's the principle of forcing someone to do something because you said so.
I'm pretty much anti-force of almost everything.
Well, I think that sometimes force is necessary.
I agree with that.
Instead of forcing, maybe this would be a better approached as an incentivize and penalty system. You know what I mean? Because
That's just force.
No, it's what is it? The honey and flies.
Vinegar.
You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. That's the approach I would imagine. Because the way you presented this to us at the start of the day is we should make people do this thing.
Yeah.
You didn't say we should incentivize and penalize people for doing or not doing this thing.
I think that is the same.
Okay.
You're
then
still getting what you want at the end.
that is a major thing that completely changes a lot of my perspective on the situation and is in fact different to me. So that's actually a huge point as we come to the culmination of this topic.
I mean, at the end of the day, the goal is I don't want people to be able to sit on money. I'm not saying that we should just make big penalties and make it completely...
What if I want
like-
to sit on $5,000 instead?
That's
of $1 million?
fine. I said it at $1 billion. You're not getting to $1 billion, TJ. I'm sorry.
No, that's not my point. I mean, if I want to sit on money when I don't have that money, why is it wrong? Not wrong. versus if it's that much money.
What?
So
You can't sit on things that you don't have.
no, I'm saying so. I sit on $5,000.
Okay.
Don't put it anywhere.
Okay.
It's no difference to me how much is my point.
He's saying he's the same as the fat cat sitting on $1 billion because he's still not spending his money.
Yeah.
I mean, I currently have $10,000 in my savings account. I'm sitting on that, but like
to me,
I'm
it's
saving
no
up for
difference.
shit. Are you saving up to do something with that money? Because at a certain point, $1 billion in your bank, you're not saving up to do anything. You can't do anything with $1 billion.
I mean, you could be. You could be.
Not that you can't do with less
things.
money. Not with the way loans and shit works.
Be
If you show
trying
up
to
to the
buy a
bank and you say,
spaceship,
I have
you know.
$500 million, I want to start a company, they're going to let you do it at 500 million or $1 billion.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not a perfect idea. It's definitely an interesting one that kind of, pulls at the brain strings, makes you think, like, how could that be done? But ultimately, we're not going to be able to make that happen because we're not, much like we're not going to be the ones sitting on a pile of $1 billion, we're also not going to be the ones, I mean, I'm assuming none of us are probably going to be ones attempting to incorporate these kinds of laws and changes.
Yeah.
We're just a bunch of whack dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TJ wants
I like
to take
end
pictures. I want to be in a library. Dan wants to. I don't actually know solidly what your end goal is.
And that's totally fine. I like to end topics on, at least slightly positive notes. So I would like to point out that this isn't the idea of this wouldn't actually negatively impact a lot of one percenters, because a lot of folks in that bracket are doing great things with their influence and their money. Bill Gates, for example, donates an exorbitant amount of money to a ridiculous number of charities and individuals. I know SpaceX guy Elon Musk, I know he does the same. I think definitely liquidating some of their assets would be a good call for overall health and well-being of the economy and the people. I would also bring up, why is it their responsibility for that? And then you've got the argument of every human has a responsibility for the health and well-being of other humans versus no, they don't. They're an individual. They can make their own choices, but we won't get into that. Point is, there are people with massive amounts of wealth that are trying to do good with it. Let's not forget that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The world is not a dark and bleak place of only selfish fucking people. Because I know sometimes it can get that way when we get really heated in these conversations.
Yeah.
But, what would give people more time to do great things that they personally want to do, and thus would improve the lives of those people around them by making themselves A, more happy, and B, produce great quality things in a marketplace of ideas without the pressure of society? If money didn't exist.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Just for a quick transition here. I firmly believe, how did I put it back in the day? I think you've posted it. Yes. I firmly believe that economy as it stands today, i.e. with currency and the influences of prices and stuff in the world, I firmly believe that economy as it is today limits members of society from doing what they genuinely want to do.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
A lot of people look at it as, if I had enough money, it would enable me to do the things that I would love to do. No, it wouldn't. Because in order to get that money to do those things you want to do, you have to sell your time and energy doing stuff you probably don't want to do to make that money, in which case you don't have the assets to use that money to do things you want to do. Congratulations.
My thought has always been the opposite of that. I'm like, man, I wish money didn't exist because I do this for free for everybody.
Yeah, if you're doing what you love, then that's the one scenario where this breaks the point. I would love to see an accurate statistical survey around the globe to find out how many people are doing what they honestly and genuinely would love to do as a profession. Because I know I'm not. I like my job enough to keep doing it. I don't love it. I know that's the same for Matt. No offense to where you work and stuff, but you know, I think they probably know it. You know it. I'm sure there are a bunch of employees there know it. TJ, I think you're the only one that's actually trying to chase what he loves to do as a profession out of the three of us.
Yeah. And it's hard.
So,
It's money.
yeah. It's hard as fuck because you need the money.
Yeah.
But most people don't actually want to be sitting there inputting data on spreadsheets, getting yelled at by, you know, distributor-based people trying to move your product because you personally, as an individual, ruined their blah, 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 when in reality, you weren't even at the fucking company when the system was made that broke their shit. Little personal stuff going in there. I'll jump, but it's nobody in the history of ever would want to do that. Literally, employment for money was designed to make people do stuff they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Matt, what are your feelings on this? You've been quiet since we transitioned.
Full disclosure, I am finding it hard to distance myself from the former topic.
Okay.
I do fundamentally think that forcing people to do stuff, just like straight up forcing them to do stuff versus forcing them to do stuff with incentive is closer to the same thing than people are willing to say. That being said, I also understand that paying people to do a job and slavery are not the same thing, and that is basically what I just said. So there are obviously some holes in situations in which this does not occur.
You're still trying to come to grips with the concept of the two. Okay.
But actually just forcing myself to stop and only react to this new topic. I am interested, small detour in the journey to get to my answer. I am interested to know, and it's not like we can fucking toss out a survey here and get an answer real quick. I'm interested to know, TJ is doing what he wants to do. He loves his work, and he's being paid for the thing he loves. Awesome. Dan, do you even want to be paid to do the thing you love? Because I don't.
No. I would happily do what my dream job is without getting paid to do it.
Well,
and that is the point I'm making.
That is not actually the point I was making. The point I was making is, I've said it many times, I think that there are two kinds of people. There are people that work to finance doing the thing they want to do, and there are people that do the thing they do and get paid for it, or do the thing they want to do and get paid for it. I don't want to get paid to do the thing I want to do. And I guess that actually is going to help your argument here. I don't want any money to be involved with the things that I love to do. And in the same way, I don't want to be doing the things I love for money. It goes both ways, like,
right, you don't want to have the things you love associated with the institution of economy.
Yes.
Like, you want it to be separated and precious and protected to you.
I like and am completely willing to, for the rest of my life, work in libraries. This is a work that I like. I have a passion for helping people better themselves, and I think that on average, that is what people go to libraries for. That being said, I don't have any great big dreams of revolutionizing the library industry. I don't really fucking care. Like, on the one hand, I just said I have a passion for helping people better themselves. But on the other hand, if I have a day at work where I can't find somebody their perfect book, I don't care. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna be just fine. It's not like gonna affect me forever. The things that I love to do are play role-playing games and consume works of fiction. Movies, books, TV, anime, manga, comics, all of it, and I like to twist those ideas from all the different sources into new ideas, and like I have a whole fat list of story concepts, and one day I'd like to start writing. I think I'm getting closer and closer to that point, but I don't really want any of that to be affected by money itself. So yeah, I think I do fall on the I would love to live in a society where I could do what I want and not worry about money.
That makes sense. I guess the big concern then, TJ, do you want to weigh in on this before we kind of shift to another line of thought on this same topic?
For me, I mean, I agree with them. If I could do my photography without money being involved, I'd love that.
Yeah, just like you're able to live your life healthily, happily, and maybe not the biggest house in the world, but you live in a place that you're comfortable with and maybe are allotted to take a vacation every now and then.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Otherwise, you still have to, I don't know how it would happen, but you'd have to keep doing it something. You'd have to be producing something in this marketplace of ideas. But as long as you're producing something such as your opinion on media that you're consuming, Matt, or TJ, you're producing photography for people that need photography, then you would be able to continue living your life in the status that you would, prefer within reasonable means, kind of thing.
Right. And
this is a very anomalous, ambiguous thing. We're not going to get into how the logistics of it would work because there's no fucking way.
I've thought about it before, though.
Oh, if y'all want to, we can. I wasn't expecting to.
Go on your new idea, because
you're still formulating some stuff.
I want to hear your new idea before I derail things.
Okay. But just to the stuff that you were saying, Matt, it sounds like you have a very separate idea of like what you love to do and then what you're would prefer to do to make money is like a separate thing.
Yes, those are two separate parts of my life, and I like them being separate.
Yeah, see, I'm thinking just remove this is what I'm comfortable doing to make money, or even identify, I would prefer to do this to make money because it makes me happy. It is what I want to be doing with my time. Thinking of time as your allowance to choose to do activities, doing what you would love to be doing should be the same as what sustains you and allows you to live in society. That I think when we can get those two layers to line up over each other, not only will the quantity of ideas and production and everything in the world become significantly higher, the quality of everything will be better too. Because I will say this now, and I will die on this motherfucking hill. What I'm about to say, is a fundamental core belief of who I am as a human being. If you are not passionate about what you're doing, if you do not have passion for what you do, you fucking suck at it.
Yeah.
If you don't have passion for what you do, get the fuck away from me. Do something else that you give a shit about. Because I guarantee you, you are not doing what it is you're doing right now. If you're not passionate about it, well, the quality is bad. The speed of it done is slow. You just don't give enough of a shit to make it a genuinely good service, product, whatever the fuck you think it is. You need to have at least passion. It doesn't have to be a love, but you have to genuinely give a shit about what you're doing. Otherwise, you're making everybody else's jobs worse. You're making everyone else have a worse time, and you're ruining your own life. You fucking hate what you do. You don't give a shit about what you do. So why are you doing it? Stop. The only acceptable answer to why are you doing it are two. It's saving lives, or it's making you money. And the second one, if the economy didn't exist the way it does, if currency wasn't a thing, wouldn't be a legitimate option.
Nope.
It wouldn't force people to be stuck in shit they don't give a fuck about. And that's the problem. People can't do what they want because they have to make money. And it's infuriating.
Yeah.
And
pretty much is what it is.
Before anybody if you are this person, you've already started screaming. before anybody starts screaming, obviously in all things, nothing is absolute. There are outliers. There are people who play the piano with the best of them that had passion at one point but have lost it. There are some things that you can do that are to varying degrees talent based that you can be very good at but not fucking care about. Like, obviously there are outliers to Dan's point, but the spirit of the point that, God, imagine if that guy that was outrageously talented at X had a passion for X, how much better would he be?
Yeah.
That is the fucking point.
And I mean, I'd even argue there might be outliers, but probably no more than like one standard deviation of this ambiguous idea, because a piano player who isn't passionate about the music he's playing, I think that affects the quality of the music. You know what I mean? He is effectively worse because he is not passionate about it. A basketball player who isn't passionate about the game he's in, he's not going to try to take those risky shots that might win the game. It's not going to be as exciting of a game for the audience. He is effectively less good at it. Now, I do agree that it applies to some fields more than others. An astrophysicist who isn't super passionate about his job isn't going to make the equation better because he's passionate about it. He'll work slower, which reduces progress of the human race, though, arguably. But that's a much more difficult thing to measure. I'll give you that much.
I would actually disagree. An astrophysicist that is passionate about his work is constantly thinking about it. He has more opportunities to make that breakthrough in that spot. I would also say that a piano player or a basketball player that were passionate during the major growth part of their talent set and has lost that passion still retains a lot of that muscle memory, and so it is very easy to get close to the top. They're not at the tippy top, but
yeah,
it'd be hard for a lay person to be like, that guy doesn't care what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with your point. I'm just saying I think it might actually be less visible than you think.
Yeah, probably.
No way to prove it though. So, I do have a follow-on point based on something Matt you said earlier that I'd love to bring up now, because I think all three of us have in some. Go ahead.
I did want to add. This is a follow-on point to something you said. I do think if money was gone, I'd still want to split my time, not in the same percentages, but I still would want to spend some time working in a library.
Yeah, and that would be like your way of providing support and helping the community kind of thing.
Also, like,
you're doing a service for
if
people.
all you do is what you want to do all the time, it stagnates.
It becomes less special of what you want to do. I could see that, but I still hate the idea of like, oh, I have to go do this thing even though I don't want to right now, you know, because you need to make that buck. Yes. I don't know, maybe the right answer is there needs to be a better balance between the two.
I've always had this question in my mind: does everyone need to work? Does the entire populace need to do something?
See, with that question, then you run into a paradox with your other claim of everyone should be treated equally, regardless of how much money they make or their status. Everyone should be expected to work or not work.
Well, I don't think everyone should be expected to work.
Okay.
How do you pick the people that are supposed to work?
No, I mean, in the sense of like, so this just gets into the logistics of how it could work. I think technology takes over a lot of jobs. And there might be people behind that are passionate to do it, but if everyone just did what they loved, I understand that there's problems within that thought that I don't have the answers to.
Yeah, no, we're getting into the very complex theoretical, you know, both mechanical theories and, you know, social theories. It's getting bigger than we can handle. So let's roll it to something a little bit more concrete in what, Matt, you've said earlier in this episode to kind of explore, and then we can wrap it up, because I feel like we're running the topic to its end. It's really interesting ideas that humans don't really have a way to expand upon or take advantage of because of societal structures.
Right? No, you bring up your thing. I do have one last point after this, but I want to hear you think first.
Okay. So I think on some degree or some level, all three of us have agreed, like, it would be nice if we didn't have to worry about making money constantly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or if at all, right? We're all on the same page with that. If we could live life in a quality way without having to worry about money
Yes.
existing. TJ?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Earlier in this episode, Matt, you said you don't think that the human race can go forward without money.
Yeah.
So, do you think we're just where we need to be? Do you think that was only in the specific theoretical case we were discussing before? Do you think if the societal structure were drastically changed, the human beings would find a way to go forward without the money structure at that case?
If you want to have a serious conversation about anything, I find it very hard to separate it from where we are at currently, and so I meant it in the context of the current system.
Okay.
We are not moving forward without money.
Fair enough. And that's because money is a
Yes.
fundamental feature of human life.
Yes,
on the
nobody's
planet.
making
And
the
now-
new fucking electric car that beats the Tesla without an outrageous amount of money.
Fair enough. Okay. I was just curious if that was more of part of your theoretical thought process of the progression of the human race, or if that was in this specific scenario we're discussing, that's not the case. Because if it was the first one, then I'd be like, well, does that mean you're happy with where the human
No.
race is right now? Yeah, because I fucking ain't.
I think we all agree on that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think that would have been a large conversation, but I thought it was worth bringing up because it was so diametrically opposed with your position on the
Yeah.
second point. But that's kind of what I expected. You're a smart dude. That makes sense that it was case-specific commentary.
Okay, so
All right. Yeah, you had a last
my
point.
last
Go for it.
point. And I believe I've said this before in this episode, and I'm going to say it again. This might come off as more of an attack than it is meant to be. But in the instance where we don't have money and people can just do what they want and provide, as that will allow, stuff to society, is there a minimum that people need to do, or if I want, can I just veg out on a bed and eat whatever I want and be a fat sack of shit that is waited upon by other people? What if what I want is to be waited upon, and there are people that want to wait upon me? Is that allowed?
That goes into what I was saying within my question of do people need to work?
You can't be passionate about being waited
I can be
upon.
passionate about
can't-
eating and doing nothing else.
Right. And if that's your individual preference, then you need to do something that creates a product or provides a service to humanity in some level that does that. For example, mukbang.
Okay.
Who?
Mukbang is a YouTube phenomenon or an online video phenomenon of people eating food. It is literally a video of people eating food. And one of the reasons it is popular is because a lot of the Southeast Asian and East Asian countries work so hard and they have a very small period of lunch that they don't socialize. So it's like you're eating a meal with somebody online if you watch that video while you're eating yourself.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting from a social perspective. There's
Yeah.
other reasons people watch it too, but that is you doing what you would love to do while producing something that does a service or creates a good for humanity.
Okay, so you are saying that in this world where money doesn't exist, people still need to produce things.
Yeah,
And all
like I
and-
said, I kept calling it a marketplace of
and
ideas for a
if you
reason.
produce things, you just get access to everything for free. As long as you meet the criteria of produces things.
I guess, like I said, I didn't really give a lot of thought to the logistics of it. It was
Yeah.
more of a, this is why I don't like money, is where this conversation
No, and
started.
that's like, I am trying to attack the logistics of it, because my next question was going to be, okay, well, cool. If all I want to do is eat and be waited upon, and I find a crew of people that are willing to wait upon me, and even if I do your fucking mukbang idea, how big of a house can I have?
Yeah, not something that I'm ready to explore because I know it's not feasible from the current constraints of humanity.
TJ's all up on this, yeah, we shouldn't have money thing, but then what if I want to have money, TJ? We're not supposed to force people to do stuff, but I want money so that I can have a bigger house.
Then build it yourself. Within that.
That's fair. That's fair. I didn't
That's
see that. I didn't see that attack pattern.
Find someone
If you
to
want
build
your house,
for you
yeah.
build
because
it.
that's what they care about.
I think the thing that gets reintroduced more heavily is trade.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
also where I was gonna go. Like, okay, cool. What if only one guy makes this thing and he doesn't want to give it to me?
You shit out of luck.
Yeah. But the problem with that idea of trade is then it becomes, if what you want to do is creating something material, then that's great. But if, for example, you want to do what I would love to do in that phase, and that's create media like we're doing now, or Twitch streaming, making YouTube videos, whatever, then how do I level creating media with how much that chair that I really want is worth?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna make the media available to
This
everybody
is
because
why-
that's what I need to do. Yeah, no, I know there's inherent logistical problems, and that's because society has evolved not thinking about anything that isn't in the context of currency.
Right. And I will.
Had currency never been created, we would probably be living in the situation I'm talking about to some degree, where an exchange of ideas and an exchange of services and products would have to have been established. The problem I have with currency is, if I want literally anything, there is a static amount of work based on how much people have decided my time is worth, which I had no fucking say in, by the way. I could say, no, I don't want the job. That's not what my time's worth, but no one's gonna fucking, like, what company's gonna agree with me?
Yeah.
And I have to bend to their will. So the problem is, if I want a Coke, that's worth, X minutes of my time that I had to spend working for somebody else to get that Coke.
Or
It's like, yeah, sure, but then Coke can change their fucking price, so all of a sudden now my time's worth less and I have to work more to get the one fucking Coke that I want. But oh wait, then my company does a pay cut, so now I have to work even more, even though Coke didn't change the price of the Coke. So who's deciding how much my time is worth and how much I need to do to get what I want or do what I want? Fucking everybody but me? Why is that okay?
Technically speaking, if you want to start producing goods, you can price the goods as you will, therefore determining what your time is worth, therefore changing your own conversion rate of time to Coke.
huh?
Right. If I'm producing my
Yes.
goods, how many people in this world are producing their goods?
I don't fucking know.
Not many.
Not enough. Most people are service workers. You're a service worker. I'm a service worker. TJ's a service worker. TJ owns his business. so
Arguably,
he's an
TJ is
exception to this,
producing
but
photographs.
But
fair.
I am being undercut by people
By
just,
other people.
Yeah, just having fun. And it was like,
Yeah.
hey, I can do this for $25. Yeah.
Jesus, I'm sorry.
Like,
But the point is, like, yes, you can control what your time is worth if you are the means of production.
yeah.
But very few people are the means of production or have the power to set what they're worth. It's somebody else doing it. Somebody that has no fucking idea what you want to do with your life. And then the means to do what you want to do with your life, that price is set by people over here on the other side of the spectrum who don't know anything about you and don't know anything about the people who determine how much your time is worth, who then set the price for what they're doing. And the idea right now with the currency is, well, the people who have what you want are going to set the price based on how much money you have, because then their product won't sell if it's not set at the right price. Well, then you have the third party of controlling how much money you're actually receiving, who doesn't give a flying fuck what's past themselves,
yeah.
which then completely ruins the what you want to do portion. Let's not even get into the time logistics of what you want to do. There's people out there that want to fucking paint and make cars and do all these extravagant things that take time. How the fuck are they going to have the time to do that when they've got to be constantly working? No one gets to do what they want because currency. That's my problem. Well, not no one. Not no one.
No, a lot. The
But
majority.
very few people
Yeah.
get to do what they want
You're
because of currency.
you're describing the majority.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have done the greatest sin, in my opinion, and presented a problem without a solution, because I don't see any way for the human race to fix this right now. So
No, not right now.
I
The
think
billionaires at the top of the pile would
I
wanna
think honestly,
ruin that idea if it pushed forward.
honestly, what you want is an ever inflating bottom level of little to no work with guaranteed means to live. And therefore that
Well,
would facilitate doing what you want to actually produce value to society.
I want it to be more feasible for work, as you put it, to be what people want to be doing with their time. That's what I want. I'm tired of this idea that work is a necessity that you don't have to like doing. For example, my grandfather told my brother and I, remember, you don't have to like what you do, you just have to tolerate it enough to make the money. I'm tired of that thought process.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's insulting. I think that's extremely limiting to the progress of humanity, as you described, Matt. I think that's how you get people who do shit fucking work in the first place. And I think it's demeaning from a respect to your fellow human standpoint. At that point, I expect you to do shit you don't want to do or that you're not happy doing because I can pay you for it. Like, I understand the incentive process there, don't get me wrong, but that's just fucking sad. Like, do stuff you don't want to do because I have the incentive to make you do it. Yes. Wow. Okay. What's the difference between that stack of money versus a gun pointed at me? One threatens my life, sure. The other one, oh wait, it threatens my life if I don't have it, because then I can't eat, I can't have shelter, I can't have clothes, I can't have water. What's the difference? You may as well be pointing a gun at people.
Yes. I envision
I agree.
Like I said, an ever inflating bottom line of pseudo-socialism that will slowly provide for all our needs and allow people that are willing to live at a certain quality of life to do whatever they want with their time, given minimum, housing and food and stuff.
Shelter, food,
and this
Basic
ever
medical.
inflates to become more and more and more, compared to what we know, luxurious. But I think there will always be at the top a band. I think you will always break if you want anything for the time period that is truly luxurious, you will need to break from the free provided upon life into the life where commerce still rules.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting mesh of the two ideas we've talked about here. Because then above that band, that would be your breaking point for you need to take that money and put it back into society after that point. Like you have enough for said luxury you are aiming for. You're in the band that you're discussing that is above, the bottom line. And now that you've reached this point of luxury and you're clearly, this is what you like to do. You love success. That is what you're passionate about. You've achieved success and you're going to keep achieving it. Part of that success is showing everyone that you've achieved it by putting the money back in, which is how you raise the bottom line.
Would that satisfy you, TJ? If that was the system, if there was a line at which below you just are provided for and you can do what you want, and above you interact with what is left of the systems of commerce and a percent of your income goes to this forced spending?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that makes sense because you buy into it at that point. Like you are choosing that.
Yeah, you're voluntarily entering that field.
Yeah.
Damn, we figured it out, guys.
I would still make the argument that even in my old system, by making enough money to be included in the you now need to spend, part of your income that isn't, you need to spend an amount of your income above a line towards not yourself. I would still argue that simply being a person that wants to make billions of dollars is electing to be in that system. I don't see the difference, but cool.
The difference is the bottom is the pre half of that, where in your world it's functioning the same as it is here, which means there's no baseline that they're contributing to for everyone else in humanity. Whereas in the wacky world where we're combining these two ideas, everyone in humanity is benefiting from them returning the money back into it.
Yeah.
Whereas in your scenario in the real world, they're putting it back into the economy, which isn't going to take somebody off the streets.
Okay, I feel like the wacky world version is more controlling.
Yes, you're right. But in that scenario, it's a difference of that's what we would be used to in wacky world versus that's not how society works in the real world, which is why it's not going to happen.
Also, it's a more it creates a in the wacky world it's a more fairity, even though it's more controlled, because the bottom line is even, and
the bottom line has something the top line doesn't, right?
Right, and the bottom line has equal opportunity to go into the above line, because if they have a passion for something they want to do, then they can get there. If they just want to live off of that, then they can do that. And then once you're in that point where you're living in that upper echelon, then you know that's coming. Like, okay, I'm helping fund the bottom line because that bottom line helps me be in that top line.
Yeah, and also by the time you get to that top line, you've received benefit of being in the bottom line probably for a significant amount of time, I'd have to wager.
Yeah.
So you know what it's like to be down there. Whereas a lot of the rich people today have either A, been rich for so long, or B, were born into that shit.
So in wacky world, is everybody born into the bottom line? You don't get to benefit from your parents' success?
That is a good point. I did not consider that. That's fair. I don't know how that would work.
I also think it's funny when we take our wacky scenario, I think of a lot of walls, and like from like animes and stuff, like the like Attack on Titan and like, you know,
physically divided.
Like that shouldn't be how it would be. So you have bottom line people still with the upper echelon people walking around.
I was thinking more Brave New World,
like
just
that.
not dystopian.
I've not seen that.
It's a movie. It's a book. Technically, there's a movie,
But
it's not great.
But so I think it'd be like an infinity symbol at that point of people working together and working with each other, or not working.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately neither of these things are going to come into fruition anytime soon.
Not in our lifetime.
Not with that attitude.
But we could bend the starting point. This could be the starting point.
Not with that attitude. Yep, the WAQ Show is going to make these sweeping changes to how society across the entire planet
You hear
works.
that? 3 viewers in Belgium? This is the seed. This is the idea. Run with that shit. Go talk to the guys in Switzerland and start some fucking bank shenanigans.
Now, maybe in another episode we could talk like a lot more in depth of the logistics. I would have fun with that.
Oh,
but
God,
that's all
I would
to.
not, because I've said some things I cannot even fathom how they would be managed in reality.
Well, that's why it'd be fun to just like dive into it and think about it. But that, we'll see.
All right. Well, you want to any last comments before you take us out, TJ?
I'm good. You got anything, Matt?
Not that I haven't already said.
All right, cool. Thank you for listening from everyone around the world. This has been The WAQ Show. I'm your host, DJ.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Dan. If you like this episode, don't forget to share it with your friends and show them some of our other awesome episodes.
Hey. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.